All right, everybody, we should be live. Let's make sure that's actually the case over on Rumble, of course. Unpause, repause. As usual, I'm going to talk about some good shit today. Mostly it's going to be, well, I guess it's quasi-political, I suppose you could say. We've got that fundraiser for the Crystal chick there who got fired by Cinnabon. It turns out that, as usual, and this is a lawsuit waiting to friggin' happen, by the way, this is a Sandman moment. Somebody gets antagonized, the people happen to be of Somali origin, they claim racism, even though they were the ones being sexist and antagonistic, and then she gets fired. And then the legacy media runs with it and says, oh my god, there's this terrible Nazi, she wouldn't give this Somali woman more caramel, and then just randomly went off. It turns out that that's not actually the case. It turns out that there's a little bit more to this story, actually. So we'll be parsing that apart. Speaking of which, we're also going to be talking about anti-whiteism, because that's an important topic that is often ignored. A lot of people don't want to touch the subject because it's associated with white nationalism. So you're not allowed to defend your existence as a white person, especially if you're a straight male like myself. You're not really allowed to defend that without sounding like you want to return to slavery or something like that, or, you want to kick everyone out of the country if they're not European diaspora, or something along those lines. We've got an incident in Winooski, actually, as a result of Trump, criticizing Minneapolis and the Somali community there as well as elsewhere, and Tim Walz' fraud. They decided to raise the Somali flag over a high school, actually, right here in the state of Vermont, in Winooski. It's not actually that far from here. It's about a 2-hour drive. It's up in the Burlington area, so it's not this part of the state. You're probably not going to see much of that in a place like Rutland. You certainly wouldn't see it in the Northeast Kingdom or down in Bennington. But in the Burlington area, yeah, it's mainly it's a bunch of people who came from the West Coast in the first place. Like, there's not many Vermonters left in Essex County. Just saying. And then we have the mystery of the blue Chernobyl dogs. Yes, there's some of them appear to be dogs, some are wolves, and some of them are hybrids. Wouldn't want to tangle with one of them because they are technically radioactive, but they were turning blue. They think that they know exactly why this happened. We shall see further. Yes, the explanation may surprise you. It's also extremely funny, so we're talking about that. That's what I'm talking about. I see that Occult Priestess is there. Hello. Milady. Sir Thomas Drake. Apparently, Crystal is a liberal who voted for Kamala. Imagine how bad Somalians are to get someone like her to crack. Lol. Yeah, that's actually hysterical. It's actually hysterical because... yes, indeed, it appears that the person, over $100,000 have been raised for her because she got fired from her job for what apparently is pretty much no reason. Or at least she wasn't the one that antagonized this incident and has a ripe lawsuit going. I have a feeling that Give, Send, Go money is probably going to go towards legal fees, and Cinnabon is going to pay much more than the amount that's raised on Give, Send, Go, probably. This is a pretty cut and dry case. We'll be discussing that as the main news of the day. Yeah. Got all sorts of crazy shit going on right now. Yeah, when somebody who is like a far-left Karen type manages to get to the point where they're like, suck it, which she literally does on video, and threatens to throw water on people, then you know that you've probably gone too far. Sigil! Sticks, I've solved your Twitter algorithm issue. It's called the like button. You're not liking posts from people you want to see, but instead interact with a lot of leftists, hence what you see. Ah, that actually makes sense. I'll have to try that out. USA Patriot, you are controlled by the Basque. Basque people, interesting group, actually. Believe that the linguistic system there has never fully been traced, actually, if I remember correctly. Sigil, a lot of you motherfuckers out there revealing you don't like your mutuals posts. I actually do. But I also like to randomly interact with things that I find distasteful because it's fun to have a conversation. The point of Twitter is to debate people. Or at least it used to be. Sassmaster, how the left is shocked that whites are angry after the last 10 to 15 years of blatant anti-white rhetoric from them. Yep, exactly. Yeah, black fatigue, says Adam Simon. Yeah, in this particular case, we'll get right to it, actually. Let's get to the main news of the day, which is this particular case with the Cinnabon worker. What happened, and link in the description, you can see it for yourself, is that this entire incident was predicated on a man telling her that she was wearing sexualized clothing and asked if this made her a better person. So effectively, the original instigator was the male in this couple, and it was a form of sexual harassment, technically speaking. Of course, I don't consider that sexual harassment myself, but under current legal code, it could be easily construed as that. So a man, basically is trying to get her to put on a hijab because he considers, the fact that she doesn't have one on to be sexualized. And then it goes from there. And then she launches off onto what admittedly was a tirade. If you, though, insult a person, expecting them not to insult you back is, kind of nonsensical when you really think about it. And she used the N-word. Oh my God. She used that holy inscription that banishes all liberals. And then they regroup and then they try to get you fired, which is what happened. This is a lawsuit waiting to happen. Because if the instigators were not her, in that particular situation, her response, while perhaps you could conceive of as disproportionate, it was not violent, and the people were harassing her effectively in her own workplace. That appears to be what happened here. It appears that she made some sort of comment about hijab, and then the man involved effectively, under the law, technically sexually harassed her. This would also be evidence of religious discrimination, the idea that you should be able to coerce other people to cover up their hair because angels might rape them and create a race of demons or giants or something, while superstitious as well, is also retarded to the fullest extent. So, I mean, I don't see anything wrong with what she's saying or doing here. She's saying basically, get out of my face. Leave me alone. You've got your fucking caramel. Apparently offered to rewarm the caramel because it was running low or something like that, and there was some sort of dust up over the fucking caramel. And then this comment was made to her that, basically it's insinuating, you need to cover your hair. Well, no, you don't need to cover your hair. No, the long hair is a good thing. And not just for men. I mean, I'm just waiting for an angel to come and rape me, thinking that I'm a woman because I have long hair, because apparently that's a thing to some people too. It's really, really weird, actually. I mean, it doesn't make sense. When the legacy media trots out an article like these, on a subject like this, and it's very, very quick, and it's very, very hyperbolic, usually it means that their take is wrong. Nick Sandmann is probably the greatest example of this. Of course, in that particular instance, he was deemed racist along with his classmates. Then we found out actually they had been antagonized to begin with. They were not acting racist. In fact, they were actually opposing a group of separate racists at the time by trying to drown them out. Thus, Sandmann is now probably a multimillionaire. Good for him, by the way. I hope that happens here as well, in this case. Sigil, remember, Shiloh Hendricks also got into it with Somalians. These situations wouldn't happen if we didn't have any of these, I can't say that on a YouTube live stream, but individuals in our particular civic structure. We'll leave it at that. I apologize for having to mince words once in a while. Sassmaster, where do you think this is going? I think the backlash is going to be epic. A lot of people going back. Yeah, we're going in reverse right now to a soft reset. We've been doing that since 2016. I think it's a good thing, actually. Perictorius, Styx, I'm listening to the court arguments now. It's fucking brutal, dude. Conservative judges literally twisted the Dem lawyer into a pretzel, and they have the guy making Trump's argument. No joke. Judges started laughing. I'll have to fucking see that shit. USA Patriot, what's your problem with the Basque people over in Spain? Uh, I don't get it. Sigil, I don't think YouTube considers light bulb head a slur yet. Yes, but in the context, it would consider that to be pejorative. So I can't mention the full context there. People can probably guess what you're talking about anyway. Light bulb heads seems to be a common meme. USA Patriot. The Basque manipulate local politics. All right. In Wyoming. It is well known Basques pay American influencers like you to ignore their influence. Well, if they want to give me free money, that would be nice, but I am not being paid by the Basque people. I get paid by sponsors, which we're going to get to in a moment. I get paid by all of you doing super chats. I've got a Patreon, I've got a Subscribe Star, and I sell books and stuff like that. I know nothing. If you wanted to DM me on Twitter with anything that you have, I'd look into it. I mean, if you have evidence of that claim, yeah, I'll cover it. I mean, but I need more information because I know nothing about it. I don't know a whole lot about Wyoming politics, nor do 99% of Americans, by the way. Let's get to our sponsors before we get to the rest, though. Speaking of sponsors, first we have cultivated-mind.com, where you can get mushroom pills. Yes, indeed. Should take one every day. It will help with longevity, it boosts vitality, and also helps with your gastrointestinal system, it seems. I mean, I've always been regular, but, you know, you gotta take good healthy shits. Speaking of which, you should give some of the doggy dose to your dog. It'll help their shits too. Also, they seem to enjoy the flavor and the smell of it, and will extend their longevity and vitality, make a nice shiny coat, keep them healthy. You know, because dogs, they can get like fucked up when they're older, and so you should give them doggy dose, or as I call it, doggo dose. We've got BiltongUSA.com. Anytime that's mentioned, we must. This is our libation of the day. Too salty, Anton will say. Anton's a funny dude. But, imports, meat, Wagyu, Angus, Cabanassi, venison, bison. Those are just a few of them. Some of them are spicy too. Like there's the Reaper Biltong. I would give it, it's pretty spicy. It's up there. It's also really, really good in a noodle soup. We've also got Stick, Sex, and Hammer mugs, tumblers, and shirts available. And finally, jamandbean.com. jamnbean.com. Which I sniff every time I live stream. I love it. We've got Clanker Blend. If you like coffee, you should buy some. And I think that you'll find that it's nice and smooth. Like, it doesn't have that weird acidic flavor that some coffees have. Like if you brew Folgers or something like that, it has that weird bitter aftertaste. Especially when it's no longer fresh. Not going to have that problem with this coffee. Also, various teas are available as well. Herbal tisane teas, like green tea and stuff like that. Black teas, Yunnan Jig, my absolute all-time favorite tea that I've ever had in my life, actually, comes from Jam and Bean. There's also jasmine tea and things like that. You know, just explore. It's almost the holiday season. Buy some tea for your relatives. Probably a good idea. That would be a good Christmas package. You get some biltong, then you get some coffee and tea, and then you get a bottle of mushroom pills. That actually could work. I would accept it for Christmas. I'd be real happy, and I don't even like getting gifts generally. I only prefer giving them. I'm not very good at getting gifts, for various reasons. Yeah. Anyway, there's a little bit of a rant about the sponsors. Copium poppies. We should ban hijabs and turbans, Muslim garb. If Muslims come here and try to impose their cult on us, we need to suppress them and make it impossible for them to be openly Muslim while here. This is also why we should ban infant male circumcision. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Sigil. I got something funny to try. Ask Rock in public about the health benefits of burning cow shit in your house. It's being programmed by Indians. I don't know if Private Grok says the same thing. Huh. I know that they used to use bison droppings as a form of fuel in the Old West. I don't know. I've studied Ayurveda, and I know that cow shit is used as a form of plaster and is considered, medicinal in some ways, but it doesn't actually form a major part of Ayurveda. I've studied Indian medicine, in fact, edited several works specifically on the topic. When you press Grok on the sources for its claims, it just ignores you and won't answer. Huh. Interesting. I've never had that happen. Scott Olrun, Scott Rolden. Sticks, you are the best. Thank you for starting my day the right way. That's what I'm talking about. Kaiser Von. Yeah, I'd like to do a video on Baldwin IV and his crusade against Saladin, actually. Very, very interesting battle. The tactics involved were equal to those that Alexander used at Guatemala. Vastly numerically superior force gets absolutely goddamn crushed simply because of tactics. And geography, to an extent. Saladin made a big, big error by wandering through a marsh into unfamiliar territory and not guarding the front as much as he could. The front line pretty much got crushed instantaneously. And he almost died, actually. He almost got killed by Baldwin himself. And Baldwin was a leper who had to ride his horse with his knees because his hands were so leprous. They had to strap his sword to one arm. He couldn't hold the reins, so he had to use his knees to control a goddamn horse. Interesting fellow. He also wore a silver mask at all times to hide, the scars of leprosy. There are multiple depictions of this. Kingdom of Heaven, by the way, is not canonical. Not every part of that movie is actually canonical. Sigil, Grok recommends burning cow shit to cleanse your home. There's antimicrobials in the smoke and blah blah, and it does recommend using cow shit as plaster. Grok is full Hindu. The Swiss used to burn juniper in their fires in hospitals. This is why when people were wounded in World War I, the survival rate, if you went to a Swiss hospital, was considerably higher. Chamomile is antimicrobial. There are a bunch of antimicrobial plants out there. They used to stuff them in plague masks. I made a video on the subject. It was a crude gas mask more than anything else. Shielded from, respiratory droplets, filtered through antimicrobial compounds. They thought, it smells nice, therefore it must be healing. What they didn't realize was that the plague bacterium don't really like being on chamomile plants and stuff like that. Hey, kitty, just a moment. You want that? She was asleep in the closet. Yeah, there we go. All right. That's fine. Happens all the time. She sleeps underneath the... I swear that she's studying literature to try to mount some sort of crazy cat campaign against the human race or something. She always sleeps in there. Yeah. So as far as the Cinnabon story... I'm in full support of Crystal in that. I don't care if she's a liberal, because she was getting out-Karened by, religious fanatics that were literally talking about how she was being sexualized because her hair was out. That's not something that we should be tolerating. It's retarded, so yeah. Big Cat, are your parents disappointed in you becoming a pagan? You said you were a Christian growing up. Repent, you devil, repent. No, they have no problem with it. They're not particularly religious. Randall Flag. Styx's cats are secretly shit-libs. Yeah, cats, they do act a little bit like socialists now, don't they? Because they only take instead of giving. The limited work they do is basically for their own amusement, like... Thankfully, they can be put to work killing moles, voles, and other small rodents and pests in the garden. Tarred and feathered. Stick's middle amulet protects him from Muslims. Yes, it does, actually. Yes. By the way, I'm not wearing this because I'm a devil worshipper. Some people have claimed that to be the fact. I got this very, very long ago, and it's sentimental more than anything else. My niece managed to find it. I had no clue where it was. It was actually hanging up with some Mardi Gras beads, actually, and so it got dug out. Very interesting. Lapidus. I got that from a friend, and it was made personally for me. And I think it's the Legion of Merit, actually, specifically. So I guess we've got European diaspora, occultist, and just nostalgia. It's pretty fun. Moskvich. I use pork fat and vodka. Ugh. Mixing those together doesn't sound very tasty. Cololds. Is letting a girl peg you gay? It's not gay, it's just weird. I mean, it's a girl involved, but you're getting fucked in the ass, so yeah. I'd say so. Yep, so, the legacy media has misled everyone with regards to this story. And this is not a surprise, by the way. We could have predicted this. Like, when I first saw the original clip of the video, I said, okay, this is not fully in context. Why is the context being left out? Why am I not seeing the lead up to actually this full exchange where she does say suck it and say things like that? Why is it left out? Could there be a reason? No. Really? It reminded me immediately of Nick Sandman, and I'm like, I need multiple shots of this particular interaction. We've got to talk about anti-whiteism. I do not have a problem with people who are non-white. I do not care if they are Hispanic, although many Hispanics are white anyway, or Asians, or black people, or anything like that. I really don't give a shit. I try to judge people as individuals. But there are people out there that don't do the same. There are like the Black Hitler clip that Elon Musk posted, which is actually badly dated. That's 15 years old, I think, and it came from Boston. There was this black dude in dreadlocks who basically was saying we need to exterminate white people. And I guess he was on the Boston City Council for a while or something. That was the foreshock of what was to come. Anti-whiteism mainly derives from two things. First, people who do not like the concept of there being any form of white solidarity. It either scares them or they find it morally reprehensible. And secondly, for economic reasons more than anything else, and for political reasons, of course. It spreads because people want to get voted for, so they get people to hate one another, and then they try to get 51% of people to side against the other 49%. It's really elementary. There are certain subversive groups that promulgate this openly. You'll notice that they're run by a bunch of rich people, even though they mainly stress socialism. Very strange. So black nationalism is okay, but white nationalism is inherently racist. That's a form of anti-whiteism. The idea that whites can't collectively bargain. Union style, the left should be in favor of this, by the way. Or like any other id-pol group, that's anti-whiteism. The idea that white people are uniquely terrible. We're the colonialists. We're the enslavers. No other country in history other than the United States ever had slaves. So all of those black people in South America who bought 10 times more slaves than anyone in the deep south of the U.S. ever did, that was okay. I guess because they're the same color, so automatically it's all right. And things like that. I would notice that there are an awful lot of people in Congress that have dual loyalty. It tends to be rather one-sided as to where that loyalty lies. And this is unhelpful, I guess. I mean, if you're going to make like Scott Wiener claims of anti-Semitism, well, you're kind of leaning into it at some point. Just saying, people notice. Guys, can you not just randomly spam hot dog and... Are those monkeys or cats? Or I'm not even 100% sure. Emojis have become less developed over time. Snakes bleed red. He is so scared to say anything about Jews, shaking my head. I am opposed to Judaism, and I'm not a supporter of the nation of Israel. I think Netanyahu at this point is a madman. So, yeah, I'm willing to criticize anything. Sigil, if we're all so terrible enslavers and shit, we should give them what they want and put them all in chains. They'll be much happier being correct, won't they? Best not disappoint everyone. Or we could just withdraw all Western investment from these countries, and when they dry up and die, and everyone is in famine because we're not giving them free food and building railroads and shit like that, I'm so sure that that will improve the continent of Africa so much. Because obviously, there are other people that are going to pony up and invest huge amounts of money to the extent that the United States does. Yeah, Netanyahu at this point, he's nuts. This does not make you pro-Palestine to point this out. Not even close. Opposing the state of Israel in its actions does not mean promoting Palestine. But you've been artificially fed the propaganda that it's a dichotomy. I'm just pro-America. I really don't give a shit what the Jews and the Palestinians do to one another. It means absolutely nothing to me. Not my continent, not my problem. Let the Arabs take care of it. Let Saudi Arabia step in and fight Iran, or let them do it. It's their area of the world. It has nothing to do with the American hemisphere. Mike Blagosby. Yeah, where's Bobby Robinson? Why is he coming in so late lately? It's almost 12:30. He's supposed to be on the clock by now. But no. No, I will keep to the Americas as far as my interest in geopolitics generally. It bothers me when other countries interfere with what's going on here, like Chinese influence in parts of South America, European censorship, things like that. Beyond that, unless it affects me, at least in an indirect manner, I don't have any real say in the matter. I don't really care. Don't call me tall. Can we get a tooth update, you smelly gay pirate? I still have proud British teeth, I am happy to say. Sigil, it isn't enough to divest, unfortunately, because they genuinely believe in the magic soil theory. We have to actively put them in their place, or they will continue to assail us on all sides. This is why I think that the Supreme Court is going to side with Trump on birthright citizenship, because specifically it's a narrow, fairly limited statement that has to do with you've got two illegal parents in the country, and they have a child, and so the magical soil thing doesn't take effect. We're going to see where they go with it, though. It's going to be very interesting to watch this case. I mean, certainly, if somebody is born on U.S. soil and at least one of their parents is a U.S. citizen or lawful resident, then they would get citizenship. Or if they're born abroad, but one of their parents is a United States citizen, that applies to, like that would apply to my daughter. But if two people are illegally in the country, there's probably a reason why they're trying to conceive while they're on your soil. This is sort of a loophole, I suppose. Copium, Mr. Rant. Oh, sorry about that. Which one did I miss? Oh, yeah. We need to ramp up pork production and start more dog breeding programs in the U.S. to scare off the Muslim invaders. If there are dogs everywhere and bacon becomes the new corn, they'll kick rocks. Well, I mean, bacon is really good. Oh, Randall Flagg sent one too? Fucking... Oh. Sticks, I think the stereotype of the crisp, cozy New England fall is vastly overrated. It lasted no more than 3 weeks here before the temps fell below freezing after Halloween. Is climate change fake? The climate is changing. However, it's not mostly man-made. No, it's mostly just nature. JA666, why for you? They banned the juice memes. What would OJ think? Yeah, for some reason, Some sites banned the juice emoji for apparently no absolute reason whatsoever. I guess people were using it as a code word for being, I don't know, ethnocentric or something. Who knows? I have sad news. The Somali flag, for the first time probably, has been raised over my own home state of Vermont. It's a group of people in Winooski, which is up near Burlington. That's the only real city that we have in our state, by the way. Up in Winooski, at a high school, they raised the Somali flag. This was quite clearly sort of a fuck you to Donald Trump and to the right wing in general. I personally believe that on state-owned property, the only flag of a national flag that should be raised is the U.S. flag. I do not believe that any other flag is acceptable to fly on a flagpole right in front of the fucking high school. Because you do realize I pay state taxes, correct? Those state taxes go largely to schooling. You know, among other property tax and stuff like that. Well, if I'm paying taxes, and they're not even going to a school in this district, they're spread all over the state, why am I paying to raise the Somali flag in a blatant political statement, a foreign flag, over public property? I press X to doubt whether this is actually constitutional. I think this needs to be addressed. But the problem, at least in the state of Vermont, is that the Vermont State Supreme Court generally ignores the Constitution, including our own state constitution. For example, we now have a shit ton of gun control in the state. We have red flag laws and various other things that have been incepted, none of which are legal, by the way. They've been made legal by the courts, but that does not mean that they are, strictly speaking, properly legal. It is possible for the legal system to be wrong. You know, we can see many historical examples of this throughout time, and not just in the United States. That being said, the Vermont State Supreme Court has a tendency to side with evil. Again, for instance, with gun control and things like that, Slate Ridge and so forth. That's happened over and over again. So if you were to take up the case, it wouldn't work. It wouldn't mean anything. What they should do, since the Somali flag is certainly not protected in the United States and technically does not represent a protected class of people, somebody should just rip it down and put the U.S. flag up. They should just replace it. Aha! King of Biltong is here! Hello, Anton! Yes, that means that we have our daily ritual. Twice daily ritual. Ha ha ha. Too salty, you will say. Delicious, I will say, as a rebuttal. Last Beacon. Yeah, Scott Wiener. Well, in fact, we're going to be talking about that, actually, too. Since the docket today is a little bit sparse. High quality, just a little bit empty. Now, we got to talk about the human swastika incident. We'll pop that in after the Chernobyl wolves, I suppose. It'll be funny. Yeah, we got a Somali flag flying above a high school up near Burlington. Somebody should pull it down and put up the U.S. flag and burn the Somali flag. That would be the best thing to do. Fuck that shit. How many Somalians are in Vermont? States like 96% white Anglo-Saxons. How many people from Somalia are actually here? There's a very small Somali, small Somali community, say that 3 times fast, up in that general area. But it's retarded. No other flag should be flying in front of effectively state property. It's paid for by our fucking tax money. I don't support Somali. I don't. Most people can't find it on a map. Why the hell do you care about Somalis for? It's not like Minnesota, which has been colonized. Expert reveals likely reason behind Chernobyl's mysterious blue dogs and wolves and coy wolves and other various species after viral photos. Yes, there were pictures that were taken of canine species in and around Chernobyl, and they were blue. And people were like, oh my god, they're getting mutated by radiation and shit like that. And toxic waste, They're getting all fucked up. Pretty soon we're gonna have werewolves or something. Turns out that they knocked over a porta potty at some point, and the dye in the porta potty, I guess, turned them blue because they were rolling around in the shit. Because dogs like to roll around in waste and filth. I saw a dog once. This is a funny story, and I love retelling it. I like old stories. They're fun. This is one of the funniest things I saw as a kid. At the parade in Woodstock when I was a kid, they had, horses there, and one of them took a big-ass shit, like, right in front of us. And this dude was talking to his friend or neighbor or something like that, and the dog saw the horse shitting, and goes over and it starts gobbling it down, like it's eating it like it was its last meal. And then the dude finally turned around because the dog was tugging to get at the rest of the shit, and then he finally pulls the dog away. Probably ate several pounds of horse shit that day. It was very interesting. So yeah, it turns out that the blue wolves of Chernobyl are not actually mutants. They just roll around in excrement like dogs tend to do. Mystery solved, apparently. That was a really, really funny story. When I first saw it, I'm like, ha ha ha. I do know apparently the animals there do have high radiation levels, though. I remember, Bio Nerd, who unfortunately is either incarcerated or dead. She hasn't uploaded in the better part of a decade. She used to go and collect hot particles and do experiments and wander around Chernobyl illegally, which is probably why she might be in a gulag or dead by now. Or she got cancer, because I remember she was reading one hot particle at one point, and the radiation level was literally off the charts. So there are still places in Chernobyl that you don't want to stay around too long in. I can only imagine. I mean, we also have a separate story where they're taking the idea of taking the radioactive fungus from the Chernobyl reactors. It's a radiotrove. So some life forms can get their energy from radiation. They don't really, other than moisture, they don't really need anything else to survive. They've optioned the concept of using that as radiation shielding, like for Mars exploration, or even on space shuttles. I don't know how pragmatic the concept is, but it's still inventive. You could, in theory, do it, I suppose. Imagine if you had, for instance, like a biodome on Mars, where radiation levels are fairly high, and it was coated completely in radioactive mushrooms. Well, that would probably shield you pretty well, because they'd be gobbling it down. Dinner is served 24/7! Yay! I don't know how they deal with the heat and or cold, but you probably make it work. Mushrooms and molds and stuff like that are pretty resilient. Copium poppies. Apparently, there are dogs at Chernobyl that are the offspring of dogs people had there, and they're still friendly to humans. Yes, there is a population. However, some of them have interbred with wolves. I don't think they'd be as friendly to you. Apparently they knocked over a porta potty. File photo. 2 stray dogs with bright blue fur walk along the street. Yeah, I mean, they're almost glowing in the dark from whatever dye they had in the porta potty, I guess. Very strange. Sigil. There's a charity you can adopt a Chernobyl dog from. They're trying to rescue and save that unique breed. Dogs have lower radiation tolerance than humans, so if they're alive, they're safe to be around. Huh. I didn't know there was an adoption service for them. I've always been a cat person. Just imagine when you get radioactive cats, how fucked up that'll be. That's what I'm talking about. Adam Simon, could you, shut up? No. Jeremy Briggs, put your cell phone in a bag of shrooms. Ooh. Yeah, the trolls are here. They're antagonized for several reasons. I happen to know what they are. King of Biltong, I will not trust any feral dogs. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure that some of them are friendly, but, then you get one that, eats a toddler or some shit. We also specialize in imported foods. Check out Biltong USA for a great selection of imported candies, cookies, groceries, and of course, Biltong. BiltongUSA.com. Code STICKS for 10% off Biltong. I suggest that you get some for the holidays. Sigil, get a Chernobyl wolf dog. Fuck yeah. Talk about having an interesting pet that no one will ever want to fuck with. Yeah, I know, that would be kind of funny. You have a glowing, glow-in-the-dark dog, I suppose. I mean, I'm assuming that they don't actually glow in the dark. Sad. Yeah, introduce luciferase into their skin cells, I guess. Maybe that would work. That's actually a pretty fun idea. Maybe I should do that to myself. I'll try to introduce luciferase into my skin cells so I can glow in the dark. Oscar Gonzalez, doggy mouth poop kisses. Yeah, I knew this one woman once, and she would eat off the same plate as her cat. She'd let the cat eat with her. And I almost vomited when I saw that actually on video. That was, yeah. No thanks, man. Cam2425IA. We need SCOTUS to rule that the 14th Amendment subject to the jurisdiction thereof means illegal aliens and children are not subject to U.S. jurisdiction but their country of origin. It's possible that they will. Come on, Sticks, you love Fallout. Get yourself a dog meat. I'd rather have a cat meat. Yeah, Jeremy Biggs, toxoplasmosis, yum. Not every cat's infected, but I mean, really, eating off the same plate as an animal is just a little weird. Like, even eating off the same plate as another person, unless they're, closely related or something, even that gets a little, or you're romantic with them, even that gets a little weird. Let's talk about Scott Wiener. I know that I did a video this morning on the topic, but I really wanted to revisit it because this is fucking hysterical. A gay pedophile, which is what Scott Wiener provably is, who has attempted to decriminalize having anal sex with children, this is literal, who has attempted to, and successfully unfortunately, decriminalize willfully giving somebody HIV, is now upset. I mean, he also literally plays with his own poop. Most people don't know this. He's a shit fetishist. He was really, really offended because some kids at a high school decided to lay down on a football field and make a human swastika. Which one is worse? Buggering a 14-year-old and giving them monkeypox, or laying in a football field in an incongruous manner that makes some people offended and upset? I'll let you answer that question. I have a feeling that it's probably a unanimous decision here. Scott Wiener is, by the way, one of two people that is contending for Nancy Pelosi's former House seat. Yes, indeed. Nancy Pelosi might be replaced by a shit-eating, pedophilic gay dude who pretends to be offended at literally everything that he sees for campaign purposes. This would not surprise me. I think that he'll probably win, actually. Considering his opponent is an outright communist scammer from India, I have a feeling that probably Scott Wiener is the favorite to win this race. Nancy Pelosi is therefore going to be replaced not by somebody who is sane, but by somebody who's batshit fucking crazy and likes to have sex with small boys. This is probably the likelihood that he has done something like that is very, very high. I would say if he could get away with it, quite clearly based on the track record of the legislation that he's tried to impose, yeah, at the very least, he thinks about it. He's a pervert. It's not politically correct to say that because he's gay, and so you're not allowed to criticize him too much. But he's also a pedophile, so, get out the wood chippers, folks! Sigil, Sticks, a Fallout 76 player confirmed only Fallout that lets you have a cat for a pet. It's weird because, canonically speaking, it's kind of up in the air as to whether cats still existed in the Fallout universe. But then they're in Fallout 4 and 76 and stuff. So, yeah. Sigil, a gay shit-eating pedophile. How much more emblematic of California can you get? Yes, he's the premier, San Francisco-style politician. It does not surprise me that he would be the front-runner to replace Nancy Pelosi. Nancy Pelosi prefers to eat ice cream, very expensive ice cream. And she doesn't mind that her husband is quite clearly a homosexual, which he is. The dildo hammer incident is canonical. I mean, if you were with Nancy Pelosi, you'd probably have to be gay too. That's a business marriage. And it's basically like, oh my God, it's time for my bi-monthly I have to fuck you situation. He probably sleeps in his own goddamn bed. He probably doesn't even sleep with her at this point. Also, gay shit-eating pedophile is redundant to say. Yeah, the dude was like, he paints with his own poo, like an asylum patient or something like that. He's into this sort of weird, scat stuff. It's like, okay, as long as it only involves adults and stuff, I'll consider it weird, but it shouldn't be illegal. But when you're complaining about the, student swastika, by the way, I'll tell the squashtika story for those of you that don't know it in a moment. When you're complaining about that, but you're trying to legalize giving people AIDS, yeah, I think that's a little bit weird. Just saying. I want to paint with my poo. Ha 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 ha. Somebody stop me. I'm going to hurt myself. Yeah, come on. He's wearing bondage gear and shit like that. And he considers this to be abnormal. A bunch of high school students trolling people online. That's what the problem is. Not fully grown ass adults that are eating their own shit and perving on kids. These two things are not the same. As far as the squashtica, many, many years ago, I don't know exactly how I accomplished this, by the way. I was growing pumpkins, I guess, and squash at the same time, and I guess they hybridized. And I didn't replant any of them, actually. I didn't replant any of the seeds, but they got composted. Well, a couple of them came up in the compost pile. And they got the best soil they could possibly get. Rich with nutrients, dense, feet deep. It was a huge compost pile at the time. And so they grew out of control. First they covered the whole compost pile, then they spread out like fucking 15 feet in every direction. They were covered in squash. But the squash weren't edible because they had hybridized with pumpkins. And so, I harvested them and I'm like, what the hell am I going to do with these? I can use them for decoration. And then I got an idea. I made a swastika in the backyard, probably about 15 feet across, actually. It was pretty impressive. Right around that time, Google Maps scraped the area. So for a while, for a couple of years, my backyard had this squash swastika in the backyard. And I was like, I didn't even mean to advertise that to the world, although I do notice that at least a couple of other people did notice that it was there and actually showed it to me, and they were laughing their asses off. It was pretty funny. Yep, the squashtica. That was the moniker we gave it. We called them the Chernobyl squash, ironically, considering we also just talked about the Chernobyl dogs. We called it the Chernobyl squash because they were they were half pumpkin. I'm assuming that they were edible, but I don't know if you'd want to eat them. I'll stick to Blue Hubbards or, something like that. Butternut squash is good. Buttercup squash is good. Blue Hubbard is really good. Yeah. So yeah, I made a squashtica, and there might be an archive out there somewhere. I don't know how you'd actually get to it, but the image might still actually be out there. I know at least a couple people saved it, but, they'd have to send me a copy of it for me to post it. It was hysterical. Concentrated juice. The swastika is a beautiful symbol, you must admit, Styx. Yes, indeed it is. It's been used by culture after culture for a very long time. It is effectively the precursor to the cross anyway. All sorts of different groups used it. Of course, Ganesha has a swastika, on him. It's also the sun wheel, and in Viking tradition, actually, this was a practice, at least in the medieval. I don't know if this is from antiquity, but they would make a wooden swastika and they'd put saltpeter in there and light it, and it would spin around and around, and it symbolized the precession of time, and it was considered almost magical. It was a big part of the religion. So you'll find the swastika all over the place. People always associate it with the NSDAP, but that's just one group that happens to have used it. So there. I find it funny when people are offended by the usage of a swastika. Taco Woman Sandy Ravage. Will ending race-based redistricting save the midterms? I don't think that it will save the midterms for the GOP. Not at least not at the House level, which is where redistricting actually matters. No, I don't think that it's going to save them. Will it ameliorate damage? Yes. Is it possible the GOP retains the House? Well, there's plenty of time for the Dems to fuck up, and they do that all the time these days. They're acting more and more like Republicans usually do. So it's possible. But I wouldn't say that it's likely. I think the Democrats are more likely than not to take the House. I do not believe they will be able to retake the Senate. In fact, they might actually lose out in the Senate. Don't call me tall. That is Stick's purpose in life, to be mocked, not to get a job, like what I'm doing right now, making more money than you will today, by the way, or take care of his kid, which I do, or move out of his parents' house, which is retarded because of rent prices, and he is here to be mocked. All right, well, I mean, continue. I'm pretty much ignoring you. It's just that you keep posting it over and over. Sigil, so why are the trolls after Sticks today? Did he piss off Worski and his gay dominant boyfriend again? I saw they were shitting and pissing over quartering for some stupid reason the other day. Opportunistic nonsense. I ignore them. And no, many of these trolls are from somewhere else, actually. Oh, I know exactly why they're pissed off, too. Let's just say. Yeah, I'm not stupid, I do actually know what's going on, generally speaking. The local Wendigo. Sticks, just shut up and strip for us already. You can already see my chest. I mean, come on. Porn is not allowed on these sites. Sad. I'll post pictures of my feet sometime, just as a joke. Wasted Witness. The swashbuckling swastika for Nazi pirates. Arr, matey. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Snakes bleed red. Yeah, triple PP there was the worst mistake Worski made. Worski was very, very talented. He was doing a good job. I had complimented him repeatedly. I had supported him repeatedly. But then he hires this completely obese dude. He's like 500 fucking pounds, when he has his inevitable heart attack, then have to knock out a wall and put up a crane in order to get him out of the fucking house. This has been pointed out by other people. And he's just an acerbic loser. At least Worski has talent, Well, whatever. All good things come to an end, I suppose. Sigil, you're working with Milo to make Nick Fuentes gay sex tape and the Groypers are blowing their anger load? Did you give Fuentes AIDS? I don't take sides in that particular... It's sort of like with, Loomer's going after someone, I can't remember who. And then you've got the Tim Pool Candace Owens nexus. I will comment on these things to the extent that I'll say, look, we're kind of all in this together because we're all independent content creators. But beyond that, I don't take public sides on these things. 92 cats, yeah. Just saying. Boink miss. Porn not allowed here? Haven't seen Adonis Paul, have you? No, I don't know anything about this individual and probably don't want to, actually. Yeah, the level of E-drama over the last year has escalated to the point where I was just like, I'm out. Not gonna do this. I'm not interested. All I want to do is make commentary, write books, and shit like that. I was never interested in E-drama. Debating people? Yes, of course. And the blood sports era was fun, admittedly. You'd get hot under the collar and stuff like that. It was fun. But that was then. This is now. We're at the precipice at the moment where we could all end up getting banned. Well, then you're not going to have any more blood sports. You're not going to have any more debates. Because you will be quite silenced. I think that's a little bit more important to combat. Copium. Laura Loomer is a disgusting Israel First traitor and plastic surgery monster. She does appear to have gotten plastic surgery. But again, I'm not really interested in delving into that side of, the political discourse. Taka Woman, Sandy Ravage, Joy Reid, U.S. founded by killers and leeches. Oh, yeah. Let's look up what Joy Reid said this time. Now that she's been fired from her original job, she basically just mouths off all the time. If you can get me a clip to anyone, if you can get me a clip to Twitter DM, I'll probably cover that tomorrow, because it's every day that ends with Y is a good day to ridicule Joy Reid. Just saying. Joy Reid chalks up literally everything. Like, every woe in her life is the result of the existence of white people and or people with penises. Usually both. That's the only thing that she cares about. I wonder why she got fired from her news slot on MSNBC. Why? Other than the tanking ratings, I think there might be another reason why. King of Biltong, what happened at the pool compound? Somebody drove by and shot several bullets at his home, actually. And I pointed out this morning, it's like, if you piss off the left, you get shot at or assaulted. If you piss off the right, you get memed. We are not the same. And I say this as a non-right-winger, by the way. If you offend me, then you've done the nearly impossible. I will still meme you, by the way. I am not a violent individual. Yeah, Scott Wiener's swastika aversion is really, really funny. I'm just surprised he's not perving on the young dudes that are in this photo, because they're in high school, they're presumptively under 18. So, that's his age demo. Well, I suppose he likes him a little bit younger than high school. I suppose if this happened at a middle school, he'd be more into it. He probably saved the goddamn photo and he's beating off to it right now. Team Trump rightly calls out Europe's civilizational suicide. Let's hope it's not too late. This is something that is, again, verboten to talk about generally. The concept that European culture is beginning to disappear because most of the people that are coming in are not from Europe. The whole point of free movement within the EU was originally, hey, person from Poland can work in Germany. Person from France can work in Belgium, and stuff like that. And Europeans would be European, and the cultures that generally you would assimilate, because Europeans are good at assimilation, and you would call it a day. But then we started getting wave after wave after wave of people outside of Europe into Europe. If this were to happen in reverse, we would call it colonialism. If millions and millions of Europeans were pouring into some African nations and refusing to assimilate, forming their own communities, and then pressuring the governments and culture there to accede to their wishes, it would be considered evil. It would be labeled as colonialism and barbarism, the evil white race, so to speak. Oh my god, all of a sudden there's all these fucking English people and Polish people and Italians and some Romanians over there, and then there's the Bulgarian community. What the hell is happening? There goes the neighborhood. They wouldn't like it. So you can understand why people in European countries wouldn't like it when people come in and refuse to assimilate and simply overrun the culture and demand, that the government change the way that it works and that people change their behavior in accordance with some foreign culture. It's a form of soft conquest. It always has been. When colonialists move into other countries from Europe, mainly they were there to exploit things economically and build infrastructure, benefiting, by the way, the population, which in many cases was living effectively in the goddamn Stone Age. When people are coming into Europe, they're mainly taking welfare and stuff like that. It doesn't matter where they're from, by the way. And by the way, there are plenty of illegal immigrants in the United States from Eastern Europe as well, so the idea that deporting people is racist is fundamentally, completely, and objectively wrong. Let's see. Copium. Sticks, your vid about Tim Pool. You got something wrong. It wasn't his house that got shot up, it was his place of business. He had stayed before. He doesn't live on site. When someone trespasses, etc., he likes to blur the line between his place of business and his home to get sympathy. Plus, he was just trashing Candace Owens for doing the same thing he's doing. Again, not taking sides. And there are, I believe, bedrooms at the Pool compound. Considering the number of people that were there. I mean, I'm just thinking, I was in the same building that got shot up by a crazy leftist. What would have happened if it had happened when I was there? Could I have gotten my brain blown out by a stray shot or something like that? It's a little bit humbling when you think about it. Yeah, I believe in defending Europe. I do not believe in defending European values, though. Only American ones. As far as the old school European mindset, it's literally the old world versus new world mindset. I'm not interested in monarchism and authoritarianism and things like that. But I do believe that the cultures deserve to exist. Like, think about it, when most of us, at least, when we were kids. What was the UK? The goofy land of Mr. Bean. And the Bobby, and, you know, those cool telephone boxes, which lend themselves so well to Doctor Who and stuff like that. When we thought about France, it's, the Champs-Élysées, and art, and, you know, a glass of wine, American cigarette, oh yes. Stuff like that. Relaxed culture. The Netherlands, I can attest to still being kind of like that, as long as you're not in a major urban center. You go to small town Netherlands, yeah, it basically is like a Mr. Bean show, only speaking Dutch. But then, you also have the problem where cosmopolitan areas start to overstretch and bleed out into surrounding areas. And those cosmopolitan areas, while fun, I can get pretty much any food in the world if you go to a place like New York City, for example. But then that begins bleeding out into separate communities. I believe that people have the right to have their culture. I do not believe that this has anything to do with being bigoted. It simply means this culture deserves to be preserved. If I were to say that about Malawian culture, nobody would call me a racist for that, right? But if I say it about the Irish, all of a sudden, it's ethnocentric. It's very, very telling, by the way. And there are certain groups of people that are responsible for that dual standard. Sigil, Sticks, watch Space King yet? New episode took Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer cartoon with Burl Ives as the snowman and turned it into Warhammer 40k parody. Funny shit. No, I haven't. I did play Napoleon Total War last night, and I absolutely crushed the Russians. I was playing as Sweden with Dutch allies against two groups of Russians, and they tried to rush down the field with their cavalry because the Russians get a cavalry bonus. My howitzers pretty much blew the shit out of them. Then I managed to take the hill. Yeah, and the rest was history. It was fun. Probably play it again later. Oh, by the way, update. This is why I'm probably going to have time to actually game a little bit later. Morbid Stories is now done, effectively. I'll do like a couple more pages of haikus, and then I have to format it. Other than that, it's complete. Then I just have to do the cover and upload the files. Copium, you weren't there. They changed studios. Pretty sure you were at the old facility. Tim's got a fuckload of properties. Yeah, I know he's got like all sorts of shit. Yeah, I'm not taking sides, but if you watch the last couple episodes of IRL before he tweeted about the alleged shooting, it's pretty obvious what he's doing. Again, I'm going to reserve judgment. I like Tim Pool's content, and so, you know. Dr. Grubius, there's a study that African languages that lack a word for color can't see it. Cultural differences fundamentally change worldview, what good and evil is, justice, etc. True, linguistics is one of the most potent things that people have. If you can control how people speak, you can control how people think. Sigil, dude, take an hour and go watch Space King. You'll love Hate Monger like the rest of us do. I'll have to look at it. Don't call me tall, insinuating that I'm a homosexual. No, I'm not George Takei. You probably sound more like him. I like that prank call where George Takei calls into the Christian chat line that one time. That was about the best thing that he did in his career, actually. Prank calls. You are known for prank calls and being on Star Trek for a while. I don't know, I was never really a big Star Trek fan. The old ones, I like the Tribbles, just saying. But then again, I also like the Ewoks from Star Wars, so I'm in the minority on both ends here. Copium. Reserve judgment? Watch the damn episodes. Why are you kissing Tim's ass? Tim is controlled opposition and a known liar. I don't believe that, actually. The local Wendigo, remember, Sticks, be positive. Snakes bleed red. He loves kissing Tim's ass because Tim had him on his show. Now, I'm simply saying I don't get into creator e-drama. I do not care about these things. I think that people who are at least reasonably independent should be standing together against a much more vociferous foe, which is the legacy media. Jeremy Briggs. Yeah, I've absolutely heard that song. Leonard Nimoy's Hobbit song. He's got this like really low monotone and a smoker's voice at the same time, and like he's singing about Bilbo Baggins and stuff. And if you watch the music video for that, it's like the most psychedelic thing ever. It's like, how many drugs were these people on? Quite a few of them, I have a feeling. Yeah, we're pretty much through the news. There are a few other things I could cover, but we've run to almost an hour 10. So, yeah. King of Biltong, yeah, like the Antvert. It's funny because they were complaining because a lot of Americans say die Antword, and that's not the way that it's pronounced. The Antword. I think that I'm pronouncing it roughly correct. For the record, I don't remember calling Sticks a homosexual, but I will admit I have called him gay so many times that I probably have. Voortrekkers. Randall Flagg, Sticks, I believe the Founding Fathers really missed a big gaping hole by not saying federal and state office holders must be American-born. I feel the genie is out of the bottle with Mamdani and Omar. Yeah. And also they missed the bar when they didn't conceive of the fact that language usage evolves over time. So there are still people that don't understand, like, for instance, what the Second Amendment means. It's crystal clear, in black and white. The problem is that the term regulated now means something in general parlance different from what it meant back then. They should have compensated for that. Copium. It's not e-drama. It's Tim lying to us to manipulate the public into supporting him. Tim lies on the regular. He kept pushing the lie Elon made X free speech even after we proved that wasn't the case. Again, you're talking idealism versus pragmatism with regards to these things. So the pragmatists must, take the fore on these issues. They must. Otherwise you lose. Well, then you don't get anything. You can get something or you can get absolutely nothing at all. That's basically the way politics and things like that work. Laugh at us. He doesn't want orc scum in his neighborhood. Yeah, we should be diverse. These orcs that are coming in, They're basically refugees. They're like probably fleeing Saruman or something. Quick, open the gates. We need some enrichment. Sigil. Pennsylvania's Second Amendment compensated for language. That's why it says shall not be questioned. Suck it, Vermont. Our own state's Second Amendment actually is even more beefy than the U.S. Constitution's provision. It's just ignored by the state Supreme Court, so there's nothing we can do about it. They refuse to revisit these cases, by the way. They simply, here's what a court does. It makes some irrational binding decision, and then it simply neglects to ever take up, the issue again. Copium, okay. If you're going to side with Tim, we're out. Bye. Not what I'm saying. I'm saying that I'm not taking sides at all. I just, I don't do the e-drama thing. It's not my forte. I started out on YouTube just giving my own personal opinions. Rarely even interacted with other people except informally. As far as other content creators, I'll stand with all of them. I even stood up for Hassan Piker. That was a bit of a mistake, but yeah. I'm not interested in e-drama. Yes, Occult Priestess. I am effectively the Switzerland of YouTube creators. Laugh at this. Don't call me tall. Is whoring himself out for 15 rupees an hour and bragging about it online. How utterly pathetic. Oh, God. Adam Simon, yeah, Swiss cheese, the best cheeses. Munster is the best. Hickory smoked is second best. Swiss, as long as it's relatively aged and on the dry, oily side, is third. Copium, not taking a side is taking a side. Again, it's not e-drama. No, but the thing is, not taking a side is not taking a side. I would need to know these people more interpersonally to judge, sort of their character and things like that. All I want to do is make fucking videos and shit. Sigil, if Styx is Switzerland, then who's the Nazis having him keep their gold? I don't like gold, actually. Fire down below. How you think Supreme Court will rule on tariffs? I believe they will side with the Trump administration. I think it'll be narrow. I think it'll be a 5-4. Roberts probably dissenting along with the hyper-liberals on the court. Because he's a liberal, too. He was a Bush appointee. I think that it'll be 5-4 in favor of Trump. Yes, indeed, the president's allowed to enact tariffs like every other president has. I mean, we've had tariffs the entire time. Originally, tariffs were the only real revenue source for the United States other than privateering and stuff like that. Raiding people. You do realize that we were incepted as a pirate nation, right? And that pirates helped to save the nation in the War of 1812, too. Very interesting history our nation has. Also, a bunch of, freed slaves. They joined up with Andrew Jackson, too. So his army must have been quite impressive. One flank is guarded by escaped slaves, okay? The other one's held by pirates, by John Lafitte and so forth. We'll try to hold the center, but, we're going to need slaves and pirates to do some prodigious work. And then a bunch of foreigners and stuff like that. That must have been one weird fucking day. Can you imagine life in the camp before the battle? Like when they were tented up? God, that must have been hysterical. By the way, please send no more super chats. We're now running up towards 120. And so I have to do a docket for tomorrow. And I've got other things that I've got to do as well. Patrick Bollinger, the problem with Tim is his taking of Israeli money. Otherwise, I literally cannot explain his hate of Candace. He is so married to the narrative that suits him instead of actually pursuing the truth. I didn't know that he actually got Israeli money. If somebody has evidence of that, then they can always tweet me on DM on Twitter. Sigil. It's funny you don't like gold because corrupting effect or something, but you like silver when 30 pieces of silver quite famously caused a huge act of corruption. Yeah, no, I don't believe the story, though, so. Alright, I'm going to be going offline. The time has come to docket more news, among other things. I still have 4 stories here, but some of them are more throwaways. They're more funny stories, like, rats learning how to jump up and grab bats when they go by and stuff like that. Some of it's a little bit on the weird side. And every single day, of course, you get more weird political news. It'll probably be flipping over fairly soon, actually. So it's going to be a good time had by all. So I will make my videos in the morning, do another live stream, and everything will be fine. That's about all. Peace.